Hey there, I have two junk journals that I finished. These are A6 size, one signature. The covers are made from original ephemera, natural vertical writing books where you used to practice your writing. I don't know how old that's got to be. I don't see a date on there, but there was a couple green ones and then this kind of tan one. This is the back of the tan one, and that's what I made the covers out of, and I reinforced them a little bit with some old file folders to make them a little strong, and I put a cluster on the front. And this cluster, that's actually an old beeline tag, merchandise tag, with a green stamp and a flower. The back. So I'm going to flip through these real quick. Well, not so quick, but anyways. I tried to put a ton of original ephemera in here. Both of these original. There's a letter from that's stamped. I think it could be in 1954. Little envelope. The side of this says, "Beginnings. You never know when you're making a memory." This is some page from an old music sheet. This is an old Kodak film packet with a folded over calendar. Could be from 1924, it could be a reprint of a 1924. I would think it would be probably a reprint, but still, I think the reprint is like from the 60s. This is a new book that I got, this book page. It was on calculations. I love it. And it's kind of nice paper. Came out of a vintage encyclopedia. Then I put a little bit of scrapbook paper in here, copy dyed. Added some ads to the white side of that one. This is some paper I picked up at a estate sale. It's kind of like made paper. Homemade paper, I don't know, it's lightweight, it's nice. I actually found this at an estate sale. It's a vintage farm inventory book. This one actually has some writing on it. Some of them do, some of them don't. Where he, year by year, added up his totals. Quite interesting. And the other side of it is a map. He would map out his farm. This came out of a vintage craft pamphlet, and here's a little cluster, some vintage fabric. All the fabric in it is vintage. That's from the writing book, Learn to Write. Calendar. This one actually is from 1938. A book plate that came out of another book, some vintage music sheet. This is some more. This is the other side of that farm supply inventory page, and then this is some old film that I got that came with the Kodak film thing. I filled this glassine envelope up with stamps, not necessarily vintage, but colorful. Some of them might be vintage. Little piece of vintage fabric. All the paper, like this type of paper, is all vintage. I get them at state sales. Another cluster. This one I put on some, like wax paper. Well, it's probably parchment paper. This came out of another great book I just found on science, probably from 1950s. One side of a tag I stamped a little bit. And the middle signature is from a Audubon book on birds that I got, that I folded into some pockets on both sides. You see the birds there. I put a little washi up here, a tag and a little receipt, and a tag and a piece of vintage paper I got out of a book on tubes, radio tubes. This is some copy of some old receipts that I have in my ISTE store, and I just made them smaller. Some fabric. Book page. I put a little bit of a pattern on there. I like that. Yeah. Hopefully left enough space for you to some stamps that folds out. Another stamp. Vintage pamphlet page. Part of the farm log. I did not glue that in. I thought you could use that in your journaling, attach it somewhere. I actually find out that there's some glue, just stick glue, that will keep that on the page. I don't use stick glue. I usually attach it with either sewing or fabric tack. And an old cash receipt that you can use in your journaling, a clip, a little piece came off of an envelope, a little piece of fabric, a great journaling page. This is a book page. I love, this came out of a Reader's Digest, 1950s, but the paper is so, they like colored the edges of it. That's not, I don't think that's, but it's just really nice paper, let's put it that way. In person you would really like it. And another little fabric circle with some Gold Bond stamps. The doily, little bit of stenciling, and here's the rest of the Gold Bond stamps. Came out of a little vintage memo book, and a postcard from 1958 blank. I did a little rub on there. Back of that. This is great for, this size is great for your traveler's notebooks, A6. This one I put a cluster on the front, put a little key. I really didn't want to cover up too much of this. Is so cool. I did a little splatter on the front. Not sure if I can read the date on that one. I know it's old. It's actually airmail. It doesn't say, but most of these that I got, most of these that I got are at least 1950s. So, some more of that film strip. Vintage fabric, another one of those lovely pages from the book. You can see I used a lot of the same things in this one, the same 1924 calendar. This is an old recipe page. Little thing of green stamps and a little circle tag that I made, a cluster, December 1938, I tried to make these kind of neutral, leave a lot of space for journaling. Hopefully they inspire you to journal. A cluster pocket, a little piece of vintage music, and a memo sheet. I did not put that in or attach it. Figured you could attach it later. I didn't attach that cluster. You can move it around and attach it where you like it. Here's the center pocket. Now this tag is actually vintage. It's another, could be 1950, 1940. This one I made out of some clusters. I believe so. A little receipt and a blank tag. Blank tag. I gotta quit putting that over to the side there. You won't be able to see it. Hopefully when I play this back you can see everything. Little fabric. Little cluster. Package of stamps again. With a glassine bag that's vintage. Both of those bags from both of them are vintage. Another cluster that's not attached, so you can move it around or you can attach it right there. Receipt, a little vocabulary card, a vintage envelope that I've attached, and it makes a pocket. And inside the pocket I have some embroidery paper, an old ad, some more of that tube repair paper. It is attached. I've just put the clip on to hold the top of it over. You could take the top off. I couldn't decide, so I left it. You could cut it off or you could leave it. You could even use that as a tuck spot. So in a clip, little piece of fabric, an old ad. That one is actually original, cut out of an old magazine, old newspaper. The other part of that recipe, another piece of airmail letter, alright, another cluster with a receipt and a butterfly stamp with some gold bond stamps, and in the back we have a 1954 ticket, some of that music from a little pocket music book, vintage, some more of that radio tube paper, and another piece of note paper. And on the back it says, "Every day holds the possibilities of a miracle." So, anyways, I'll be having these up for sale on my Etsy store. So, thank you for watching.